Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to read some Stephen King books. I actually have 3 here, but in this video I'm only going to be reading The Long Walk and Pet Sematary. I actually just picked up this copy of Christine this past weekend. We went to me and some of my book club friends went to a new independent bookstore in the area, and this is a book that I picked up there. I really liked this edition because I really liked this cover. This is from 1983 and it is the book club edition. I got it for $10, but I have decided since picking it up that I'm going to read this in January with my friend Jules from Jules Books and Things. So we're going to read the book, watch the movie, make a vlog about it. We recently did that with the Stephen Graham Jones books. I Was a Teenage Slasher, and we loved that experience even though we didn't really like the book. But we wanted to do another collab. I said, because I don't really think I want to read it in November or December, so I was like, okay, how about January? So look forward to my thoughts on this one in January, and also Jules's thoughts. She's never read the book, but she has seen the movie. I have not read the book or seen the movie, but in this video we're going to be tackling both of these. So the first one, The Long Walk, originally written as Richard Bachman, which obviously a pseudonym of Stephen King. And in the beginning I thought it was very interesting because he did like a little like foreword almost, the importance of being Bachman, and it was quite a few pages, and like why he wanted to write as Bachman, why he did, and his thoughts and feelings behind that. I thought it was very interesting, like great insight. Stephen King is one of those authors that really does talk about like the writing process a lot. Like he has that book on writing. But yeah, so I've read a few of his books, but never any of his horror books. So that's what we're doing. This feels more YA because it's about a group of 100 young boys. I think they're like, you know, younger than 18. The synopsis says, against the wishes of his mother, 16-year-old Ray Garrity is about to compete in the annual grueling match of stamina and wits known as the Long Walk. 100 boys must keep a pace of 4 miles per hour without ever stopping, with the winner being awarded the prize, anything he wants for the rest of his life. But as part of this national tournament that sweeps through a dystopian America year after year, there are some harsh rules that Garrity and 99 others must adhere to in order to beat out the rest. There is no finish line. The winner is the last man standing. Contestants cannot receive any outside aid whatsoever. Slow down under the speed limit and you're given a warning. 3 warnings and you're out of the game permanently. And by that, there is like a group of men following these boys, and they give them warnings. They will call out your number. Number 28, warning number 1. Warning number 2. And then when they get to the 3rd and final warning, the next time they're shot. So it is like very gruesome, and so far it really hasn't sat down and explained the synopsis in the book. It kind of just jumps right in with the main character arriving to the game, them starting the game, them getting their numbers, and this walk. But also it's very, like, even though it seems like on the longer side, it's actually not. The margins, like this, the margins of the book, like each page, but where the font is, it's very thin. So it's going much quicker than I anticipated, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I wish it was explaining a little bit more, but yeah. So I will update you with my thoughts on this one, and I'm reading it first because it was originally published first, and then I'm finally gonna read Pet Sematary. I picked this up last year hoping I would read it last year, but I never got around to it. I think this is like, if you say Stephen King to me, the first thing that comes to mind is Pet Sematary. For others it may be It or Cujo or The Shining or something, but when I think of Stephen King, I think of Pet Sematary. So I'm really looking forward forward to reading this one. This one is like the opposite of this one. This one has a lot of words on a page, very small font. So this one will probably take me a little bit longer to get through, but I'm looking forward to it. I am going to be listening to both of these on audiobook, but I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts on both of these Stephen King novels. Let me know if you've read either of these and what you think about them in the comments, but let's get on with the reading portion. It is time for a reading update because I'm probably 50% of the way through now. I am on chapter 9, page 211. And when I started the book, I didn't really know too much of the premise. I had not read the back of the book until I read it to you. And when I started it, it doesn't give you a lot of groundwork for what's happening. You basically have our main character checking in, you have the other boys getting their numbers, and then they start the walk. And then as they start the walk, you get a little bit more background, but like not laid out how well it is in the synopsis. And there are 100 young teen boys, like I think like 14 and 16 and, you know, around those ages. And there are some adults that are like following them in like a convoy, because if they get their warnings, you know, they get shot and stuff like that. There are adults and stuff that will come watch these boys walk, because it's like a thing that happens often. I'm not sure why it happens, and I'm not sure like how much of the walk I will actually see, but the premise is so intriguing and there's no stopping. You are constantly walking or you die. There have been people that have gotten warnings and they've like picked up the pace, or they've done whatever they needed to do to get back into it. There is some camaraderie among some of the boys, like trying to help each other keep going. And then there's other boys that are like, why did you help them out? Like, we need everybody to die. So it's a very interesting dynamic for sure. Stephen King, man, he has a thing with women's boobs. He just does. He is, no matter what book you are reading from him, you constantly see it. I don't know if there's a period where it gets better and he doesn't talk about those things, but I feel like in every book that I've read, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm just projecting, you know, but I feel like in every book I've read, he's always mentioning, not once or twice or 3 times, but like over and over and over again. And it's so odd that you have basically an entire cast of male characters, and yet we're still talking about women's boobs. you guys, sorry you haven't really seen my face today. I'm kind of having a little bit of a blah day, but I just finished reading The Long Walk by Stephen King. And that ending though, I'm not sure what I was expecting. Honestly, I really don't know what I was expecting. So let me tell you the Goodreads stats. 198,000 ratings, almost 199 because it's 198,920. So let's just say 199,000 ratings, and it has a 4.08. So obviously people are loving this. My rating, let's see if you can see it. My rating, 3 stars. 3 stars from me. What a wild ride. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I even have the words. So I literally just finished, and then I talked to Jessie for a second about it, and now I'm talking to you about it. I was never, okay, let me just start there. I was never bored. I was always into it. 3 stars to me means I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. My 3 stars is everybody else's 4 stars. Okay, so like my rating aligns with Goodreads. My star rating system's a little different. If you want to know about my star rating system, I did an entire podcast episode about it with the Fab 5, and we all talked about our star rating system and how ours were similar and different and what each star rating meant. So you can definitely check that out if you want. But 3 stars to me means I enjoyed the book. And I did, start to finish. I enjoyed it. I never, even though it basically is, it starts, you know, at the walk, and it's just the walk the entire time. It's interesting. I didn't really pick up on it, but someone said like it's an allegory for like life. Life is one big walk. And that, looking back, I'm like, yeah, that's basically what it was, because you get closer to people, you're not close to other people, you help people along the way. There's tough times, there's easier times, you look forward to things, conversations that you have with other people in your head. How it can feel monotonous, but it's not monotonous, because like every day, every step is a little bit different. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know what I was hoping the ending would be. It was not that. It definitely was not that. I really was hoping for a different type of ending, but I didn't get that. I've mentioned before that Stephen King talks a lot about women's boobs, and he has lots of different words for them. And I mean, it's mentioned probably 25 times in this book. Okay, it's a lot. But if you take that out of it, it's not like super gruesome. I mean, I've read some really dark books, so it's not super gruesome, but there are people, young boys, being shot, getting sick, exposure to the elements. There are some like gorier scenes, but it's not like too bad. But one thing that I didn't like about the audiobook is at the start of every chapter, there's like a little quote from like a game show or a children's nursery rhyme, or you know, something like that. And I really liked those, so I always had to like pause the audiobook to read that physically and then jump back into the audiobook. But other than that, I thought the audiobook was really well done. I liked how we got to know like the Musketeers specifically, like more than some of the other characters. But even when people died, I felt like we got to know a little bit about them as well. Yeah, it's just 3 stars. I'm kind of like mind blown a little bit. Like, wow, I read that and that happened. And yeah, I still don't know why this happens. And I wish I would have gotten, it probably would have gotten like 4 stars from me had I gotten more answers, like why these boys sign up for this, why this is even a thing that happens. Yeah. So you don't really get a lot of answers. You just kind of have to jump into it. You're on the walk, the long walk, and it's a pretty long book, to be honest. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. It has been a few days. It's actually been quite a few days, but let's not talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that I'm ready to start Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is the one that I was the most looking forward to reading because it's so synonymous with Stephen King to me. Other people's it may be It or The Shining, but it's Pet Sematary for me, and I have not seen the movie, so I'm hoping to finish this up in the next couple of days. I thought I would go ahead and read the synopsis. It says, when Dr. Lewis Creed takes a new job and moves his family to the idyllic and rural town of Ludlow, Maine, this new beginning seems too good to be true. Yet despite Ludlow's tranquility, there's an undercurrent of danger that exists here. Those trucks on the road outside of the Creed's beautiful old home travel just a little too quickly, for one thing, as evidenced by the makeshift pet cemetery out back in the nearby woods. Then there are the warnings to Lewis, both real and from the depths of his nightmares, that he should not venture beyond the borders of this little graveyard. A blood-chilling truth is hidden there, one more terrifying than death itself, and hideously more powerful. An ominous fate befalls anyone who dares tamper with this forbidden place, as Lewis is about to discover for himself. So, I'm looking forward to this one. There is a introduction by Stephen King, and yeah, so I'm going to read that. I'm going to get started. I'll update you with my thoughts. I hope I love this one. Let's do it. Okay, I'm currently on page 40 and I really like this quote. Lewis and his wife are talking to one another. Ellie is just really upset over like possibly her cat dying, just like the thought of death. And Rachel is upset that Ellie was shown the pet cemetery in the first place. When you get right down to the place where the cheese binds, there was no such thing as marriage, no such thing as union, that each soul stood alone and ultimately defied rationality. That was the mystery, and no matter how well you thought you knew your partner, you occasionally ran into blank walls or fell into pits, and sometimes, rarely thank God, you ran into a full-fledged pocket of alien strangeness, something like the clear air turbulence that can buffet an airliner for no reason at all, an attitude or belief which you have never suspected, one so peculiar, at least to you, that it seemed nearly psychotic, and then you trod lightly. If you valued your marriage and your peace of mind, you tried to remember that anger at such a discovery that was a province of fools who really believed it was possible for one mind to know another. Hopefully I got that across, but yeah, that was just a really interesting quote about marriage, I thought. I'm a little bit under the weather. I have a very sore throat, which is why I didn't really check in yesterday, but I did read yesterday, which was really, really good. I made it to page 164 or 165. I don't really, probably 165, because there was like a little break there. So, but one of those pages, I read that much yesterday, this top portion. So I am going to be reading more of this today, but I wanted to offer, I was going to also wait, because there's 3 parts to the book, and I was going to wait until like the first part was over, but I still would have that much more to go, and that's like almost half the book. So I was like, let me just check in now, and then I can check in a little bit later as well. But so far, so good. I won't say I'm obsessed with it, but I mean, it's easy to read. I just have to have the time to dedicate to reading it, and start feeling better would be nice. But you have this family that moves into a new house. The neighbor across the street, what's actually a couple across the street, seem really, really nice. And the dad goes over there and has like a beer at night with them. He also works at the university as a doctor. And they have 2 kids, a young son, and the daughter's a little bit older. I don't think they ever say like exactly how old she is, or maybe I just missed that. They have a cat. And the little girl notices this path up the side of their house, and then later the neighbor takes them up there, and it's a pet cemetery up there. And on the first day of his job, what's his name again? Lewis Creed, Dr. Lewis Creed. When he goes to his first day of work, there's like a dead body, and that dead body is kind of like haunting him. And there's this whole thing with the pet cemetery. And then yeah, I'm sure everybody pretty much knows this story except for me. So I kind of feel like I'm getting it. And I would say everything has been fairly predictable. Like, I haven't not predicted what was going to happen. I don't know if it's maybe in the back of my head I've heard things throughout the years, or maybe it's just Stephen King writing it in a way that's very like leading you down the path to understand what's coming next. And I think I know what's going to happen, you know, later on. So it's not there for shock value, I don't think. But yeah, just interesting. That's all I can really say. Another really great quote about grief after someone dies, it's on page 204. It says, "The immediate, personal, and most agonizing grief of blank past, that grief which the psychologists say begin about 3 days after the death of a loved one and holds on from 4 to 6 weeks in most cases, like that period of time New Englanders call deep winter. But time passes, and time welds one state of human feeling into another until they become something like a rainbow. Strong griefs becomes a softer, more mellow grief. Mellow grief becomes mourning. Mourning at last becomes remembrance, a process that may take from 6 months to 3 years and still be considered normal." Okay, I'm back with another reading update. I have made it to page 230. I did start part 2, and so far, again, everything that I thought was going to happen has been happening. The cat, other people along the way. Yeah, I want to keep it as spoiler free as possible, just in case you haven't read this yet. But like I said before, I don't know if subconsciously I knew if the author is leading me down that road, if it's like the writing itself, or if I have heard over the years things that happened, or just based on the back of the book, like if I inferred. But yeah, it's still pretty good. I'm enjoying it. It's just long. There is a lot of description, but it doesn't feel unnecessary how it has in other books of his. And it's not the longest book he's ever written. It is dark though, because it does deal with a lot of death, a lot of grief, and yeah, I'm interested to keep going and see, okay, now what's gonna happen. All right, I'm here with another reading update. It is officially midnight, but I'm almost finished with Pet Sematary. I did do reading sprints tonight with my patrons. That was really nice. My throat is actually feeling a little bit better. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm still having some drainage issues, and I'm also trying to be quiet because Daniel's already asleep, obviously. But I made it to page 318, and I was talking to Jessie about this book, and I was telling my patrons how, like, I feel like I kind of knew what this book was about without knowing what the book was about, or like the story, like what's actually happening. Before I went into this book, I literally thought it was about an evil cat. A cat that dies and comes back to life and is evil, like a 9 lives situation. And that's what I thought this book was about. That is not what this book is about. So there's that. But what does end up happening, and where the majority of the plot is, I figured that out as well. And I think it was because of the writing. The things that were mentioned and hinted at. I'm in the home stretch, but I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed and get a good night's sleep, and then we're gonna finish this bad boy off tomorrow. I finished, and I don't know how I feel. And I'm sure there are tons of Stephen King fans out there that are literally so mad at me, screaming at me right now, saying I just don't get it. And you'd be right. I just don't get it. And because everybody's reading experience is different, and they pull from different experiences and different knowledge, some people are going to get it and some people aren't going to get it. And I think that's okay that I don't love this like you love this, you know? I read them. I wanted to love them, or obviously I wouldn't even have picked them up. I mean, I bought this brand new last year. You know, this sat on my shelf for a year. Now, this one is in 3 parts. And the first part is the majority of the novel. It's half of the book. The other 2 parts are split amongst the rest of the book. So they're about... I can't even find the other part. I'm trying to find it so I can show you. So we have part 1, part 2 in the middle, and this little part is part 3. So it's not even paced well for 3 parts. Why did it have to be told in 3 parts? The storytelling didn't really change that much. So I'm not sure why it was told in 3 parts to begin with. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're all having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye, friends.